So I saw this title pop up in my news feed this week. Game developer accuses real-life weapons manufacturer of stealing its gun design twice. And I thought we should talk about this because the standards for this are maybe a little bit different than what Ward B thinks that they are. I'm assuming that Ward B can hire its own law firm to evaluate these things, but they make some interesting claims in here. The story says the developers at indie studio Ward B really like designing fictional guns. The small team has been posting highly detailed weapon designs for its in-development game Oceanic since 2019. Crucial to the team's work is that while the weapons in question are meant to reflect tech created 200 years in the future, they must look like they could feasibly work in reality. I can tell you that there is definitely a thing for tactical weapons. People like to paint their guns. They like useless add-ons that make guns look cool, that make them look tactical and cool, or just tactical. But my point is, real-life firearms have been made to look cool, and in-game firearms have also been made to look cool. So starting from that point, let's see what Ward B is complaining about. Oceanic is a science fiction first-person hero shooter and the debut game for Ward B, a 40-person team with experience developing the likes of Call of Duty, Halo, Overwatch, and Destiny. Ward B has shown off Oceanic's arsenal on their dev blog, and they have some firearms that they've designed. So Kalashnikov apparently built a tactical shotgun that looks like this, and I'm guessing Oceanic doesn't like that it looks an awful lot like their Mastodon shotgun. Do they have a side-by-side comparison? Oh, look, they do. So here's a side-by-side comparison of the two shotguns. And this is where I start to wonder if anyone actually looked at this through the eyes of a legal claim through a copyright lawyer. There is the doctrine of scène faire, which we have talked about before. Scenes of doing, scenes of making, standard scenes. When you have a romance movie, you're going to have a scene where the two people sit on a bench in the park and have a romantic conversation. Something like that. You can't copyright two people on a bench in the park. You can copyright what they say and what their characters are wearing, and especially if their characters are fictional or animated or something, the drawings will be copyrighted. Yes, all of that. But the idea of a scene being on a bench in the park with the green grass and the trees and the blue sky, or whatever your version of that is, that's not copyrightable. Similarly, a shotgun will have a barrel. It will have a magazine of some kind, usually this tubular magazine on the bottom. It will have a trigger guard. It will have a trigger. It will have a handle. It will have a stock. It will have some sort of upper rail for sight. It will have some sort of forward grip. It will possibly have side rails for a flashlight attachment or additional ammunition, something like that. These two shotguns do not look substantially similar to me at all. You can't argue. You're simply not allowed to successfully argue in a copyright case that these look similar because they are long and have barrels and have magazines and have trigger guards and things. So what we have to look at are the intricate details, the non-functional details, because copyright does not protect functionality. Copyright only protects the designs and art and things that are used. So this cut in the front of the top one, with the little sort of X pattern up here and the yellow markings, that does not appear down here in the other one. The front grip, the little indentations on the front grip don't appear anywhere. In fact, to me, they look completely different. I'm trying to see how any of this is the same. Maybe this is the wrong photo. Let's go to another one. Okay, here we have a single element that might have something in common, a little diagonal cut next to a longitudinal cut. Maybe maybe that is similar, but I doubt that that means that they are substantially similar and therefore copied from one another. The cuts are in different places. Look at where the trigger guard is, in completely different places. The one on the left apparently has some sort of safety or firing mechanism. Maybe it's a rate of fire switch of some kind. The one on the right doesn't have that. The quick release stock. I mean, are we kidding? As if there's never been a quick release stock before? I don't. I'm a little bit concerned here. These stocks look completely different. Again, there's no copyright on the fact that you have to have a stock in order to be within the standard of the industry. Rifles and shotguns have stocks, and no one's going to be able to copyright the idea of having a stock or a pistol grip. These pistol grips look different. There's really nothing about them that's similar. There is a raised area near the firing mechanism where the bolt would slide back and forth. I don't know which one is the real one and which is not. They both look like they're renderings. The raised area for the bolt to travel, that seems quite functional to me. I don't see why that would be considered a protectable element. Let's see if there's more. There's two more. There is a raised portion of the barrel. There's no vertical cuts in the one on the right. And then this is just a like the grip or the lower the barrel holder. I don't even know what the proper term is for it, but I do not see these things as being similar, let alone substantially similar. And then there are two cuts here in the upper rail. I don't think this meets any sort of standard for creativity in copyright. The fact that two cuts appear in a similar place, I don't think makes the overall works substantially similar. Let's see if there's anything more to this story. The clincher was the inclusion of a small indentation on one side of the Ultima, a horizontal L shape with a small line emerging from the corner. That's that, I think. It's a tiny detail, but one Sauceda sees as crucial, as the team has used it in a visual motif on multiple Oceanic guns. Nothing about this gives the receiver stability. It has nothing to do with it because everything is functioning through the internals. The fact that they included this indent is kind of sketchy because I kind of feel they have the Mastodon's 3D model and they forgot to exclude that part. My concern is that the inclusion of one matching element, or maybe let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that there were 6 matching elements on an otherwise complex render. I don't think that's enough. I think they're going to have to show that the two are substantially similar. One, they have to show that the infringing party had access to the original, which I think that's not in dispute here. So yes, I think we've already got the access element. Oceanic or Ward B published the renders of their guns or something. So yes, Kalashnikov probably had access to it. But did they make a substantially similar render / firearm? And I do not think it meets the level required for substantial similarity. Remember the Zootopia dispute? There were 2 stories that were kind of similar about sort of an animal society having to deal with crime. That's an affair. That's not something that is copyrightable. The details are what's copyrightable, and when the judge went into details, it turned out that the 2 stories were quite different. On the day the Ultima was announced, the developer's first thought was that the deal must have gone ahead after all, and that something had gone wrong on the admin side. Okay, so they had some kind of a deal with Kalashnikov? They wanted to pitch to Kalashnikov on using the fictional design as a gun kit for its real-life shotgun. Yeah, so they've definitely got access. And then if Kalashnikov had used their renders and made a substantially similar firearm of their own, yeah, Ward B probably has some sort of copyright claim. They might still have some kind of unfair competition claim for using whatever they did use, but if they make a tactical shotgun that is not substantially similar, even though they had access, then they don't meet the second prong of the substantial similarity test, substantial similarity. The more Ward B looked at the design, the more convinced they became that the Ultima was based on Oceanic's Mastodon. I do not see it. I do not see it. I see one or two elements that could be considered close, but a substantial similarity analysis does not take the similarities and separate them from the finished design. They look at the finished design. Yes, you do separate them to figure out what is similar and what's not, but it's overall, is the overall design substantially similar and not one corner cut or something like that. So I'm very, very skeptical that this is any kind of copyright infringement. I'll go back to a similar feeling about the Totally Not Marked situation. Does it suck? Yes. Yes, if you thought that you had a deal to make a design for a future Kalashnikov shotgun, and then Kalashnikov doesn't go through with the deal and makes a similar but not substantially similar shotgun design, yeah, that sucks. Yeah, I get that. But they always had the ability to do that. Just like Ward B always had the ability to make more shotgun renders for their game. Kalashnikov can go make a million different renders for different shotguns. And unless one of those renders is substantially similar or strikingly similar or directly copied from Ward B's design, then I don't think that's copyright infringement. In response to IGN, Kuzin tells a slightly different story. The contractor says that alongside his first contact with Ward B, he had begun an independent investigation into the developer and Oceanic and found that the company does not have enough of its own funds to complete the development. There are no investors and the release date is unknown, meaning it was too risky to work with the company. Ward B says it's in the process of acquiring funding, yada yada. Kuzin says that Ward B has not paid the Mastodon concept artist, making negotiating weapon licensing impossible as there was no clear ownership. It's possible that the concept artist not being paid might affect ownership, sure, but I don't think that plays into this at all. Ward B says that they were on a deferred payment plan from the beginning and the person has received payment. Ward B points out that the concept artist specifically referred Kuzin to Ward B and that all the artist's renders included Oceanic branding on them. Kuzin says having abandoned the Ward B plan, he went to work with another designer from Russia to create the Ultima's design from scratch, which is entirely possible. It's also entirely possible that the new designer was inspired by these renders and decided to create his own tactical shotgun, and some of the elements matched or were somewhat similar. But I really don't think it meets the standard for substantial similarity. Kuzin says he also received confirmation of the originality of the design from the Russian Designers Association in documents IGN has seen. These documents list a number of real and fictional weapons, including the Mastodon, that were used as comparison points for the Ultima design before certifying it as original. So they were used as comparison points or inspiration, and there's nothing wrong with that. We want copyright to promote the progress of science and the useful arts, and having been inspired by someone's song and then writing your own song that has a similar beat does not mean that you are committing copyright infringement. There is a line where it becomes substantial similarity or it becomes a direct copy. There's often this dispute over mashups and where a mashup is original and where a mashup is a copy, because it is using some direct copied elements, especially recording elements and samples, and that could become not clear of copyright. But this example, to me, I just see companies that were hoping for a better relationship and then it didn't work out, and then they went and made a tactical shotgun anyway. And I'll just conclude here that I don't think that this top shotgun and bottom shotgun are even close to what would be required for substantial similarity. Remember, you have to reject the fact that they look like shotguns and look at the individual elements while also looking at the design as a whole, but you have to look at the protectable elements. And there aren't enough similarities between protectable elements in these two creations, these two renders, for me to say that they are similar to one another. Not even would I call it similar, let alone get to substantial similarity. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to our top supporters in December: John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Eevi, Spirit Bear, Benjamin Hitov, Ugly Grill, Torpedan, ShadowTycho, Earthbound Star, PureMagma, Drew Hart, TechTechPotato, Eric Tams, and the Blood-Soaked Survivors. You can support Lawful Masses on patreon.com/ljfrench, sponsors.com/law, through YouTube membership, and through Floatplane subscriptions. Join me for our weekly live production stream on twitch.tv/lawfulmasses on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern US time. I hope everyone has a great week and a great holiday. I love you all. Bye.